7 years ago, an ordinary day unexpectedly marked the beginning of a new era. Darkness engulfed the world as wormholes appeared in the city, unleashing monstrous creatures. This catastrophe, known as the Dungeon Break, claimed countless lives, leaving people with no choice but to flee. Han Seong-yun, like many others, lost everything in an instant. Driven by determination and bloodshot eyes, he made a solemn vow to become a hunter and eradicate all monsters. Fast forward 7 years, Seong-yun finds himself sitting in the Great Calamity Memorial Park, overwhelmed by anger and disappointment at his failure as a hunter. Arriving at the gym earlier for training, he received unexpected news from his coach. Shocked, he inquired about the reason, only to receive a disappointing response. The coach explained that awakened individuals undergo several months of training before debuting as hunters. Despite training relentlessly for 7 years, Seong-yun had not made his debut. The coach insulted him, calling him trash and claiming he would tarnish the gym's reputation. Seong-yun was further humiliated when it was pointed out that his stats hadn't improved despite his years of training. Seong-yun's disappointment deepened as he realized he had made no progress over the past 7 years. His despondency was interrupted by a conversation between a mother and her energetic child nearby. The child proudly recounted how their father had valiantly fought monsters and aided numerous people. Inspired, Seong-yun found hope when the child declared the importance of never giving up. Overwhelmed by this encounter, Seong-yun bowed before them, determined not to give up after 7 years. Ignoring the pouring rain, Seong-yun hurried to his coach's home, where he was met with disapproval and questioned about his purpose for being there. Seong-yun pleaded for another chance to prove himself, only to be met with anger and annoyance. The coach offered him a partial refund of his membership fees if he ceased coming. Unfazed by the monetary aspect, Seong-yun was instead met with a punch that sent him sprawling into a trash heap, defeated once again. Drenched by the heavy rain, he longed for an inherent trait or talent that would aid his path as a hunter. As raindrops gently collided with the water's surface, a blue screen materialized before Seong-yun, proclaiming that the Tower of Trials commended his unwavering determination. Bewildered by the sudden turn of events, Seong-yun tumbled into the water he had been sitting on, panicking and crying out for help. Though his coach heard his plea, Seong-yun vanished from sight, evoking a sense of relief. On the brink of drowning, Seong-yun emerged from the water, finding himself in an unfamiliar space. The blue screen reappeared, announcing that all worthy candidates on Earth had been chosen. Confused, Seong-yun glanced at the displayed level of difficulty and, despite lacking understanding, placed his trust in himself and selected a level. His injuries miraculously healed as he stepped into the Tower of Trials, astonishment washing over him as he found himself in the heart of a desert. A sword was bestowed upon him as his weapon, and the blue screen informed him that clearing the trial would reward him with an innate trait. Overjoyed by the prospect of his hard work paying off, Seong-yun faced the imminent challenge. Suddenly, a sand golem emerged beneath his feet, signifying that he must survive for 10 minutes, with death as the penalty for failure. Seong-yun realized that he was now caught in an arduous predicament. In the scorching desert, Seong-yun sprinted away from the golem, aware that his stamina would falter in the desert. Frustrated by his predicament, he could only flee or face certain death. Memories of past insults fueled his determination as he summoned his courage and sprinted forward. Drawing upon 7 years of training, Seong-yun utilized his knowledge to battle the golem. Aware that the golem's core held the key to victory, he sought a strategy to bridge the gap. Spotting a dune, Seong-yun sprinted towards it, leaping away from the golem while keeping his gaze fixed on it. He thrust his sword into the sand, halting his momentum and causing the golem to lose its balance. Seizing the opportunity, Seong-yun leaped towards the fallen golem and swiftly struck its core. His sword rebounded upon impact, revealing the unexpected hardness of the core. Realizing he needed to strike the core once more, Seong-yun found himself ensnared by the golem. Despite the looming threat of death, memories of past ridicule surged within him, igniting a final surge of energy. With all his might, he hurled his sword towards the golem's core. The sword struck true, and the golem emitted a cry of agony. A blue screen message displayed confirming the core's destruction. Xiong-yun completed the trial with a mere 7 minutes and 8 seconds remaining on the timer. As the golem crumbled, Xiong-yun fell to the ground, battered and bloodied. Yet a smile graced his face as he marveled at his triumph over the formidable foe. The blue screen appeared, offering congratulations. Determined, Xiong-yun rose to his feet and received the innate trait reward. In addition to the main reward, he gained 1,000 points and 2 bonus rewards, an E+ grade skill called Fast Regen, and 500 points. Xiong-yun could hardly believe that his 7 years of sacrifice had finally paid off. The blue screen presented him with the innate trait reward, an F-grade innate trait named Necromancy. Realizing his path to strength lay in surviving the Tower of Trial, Xiong-yun observed a black fog emanating from the golem's remains. Curiosity piqued, he reached out to touch it. The blue screen prompted him with the option to absorb the golem's dead spirit. Filled with confusion and questions, Xiong-yun followed his instincts and chose to absorb the spirit. The golem's dead spirit then converged upon him. After absorbing the golem's spirit, Xiong-yun's skill level rose by 7%. He was surprised as the golem's spirit entered his body. The blue screen informed him that he now possessed one of 5 spirits. Xiong-yun was confused about how to utilize the spirit, but he could sense its presence within him. The screen also revealed a permanent stat increase for absorbing a dead spirit, boosting his strength by 3 and stamina by 2. This newfound strength made Xiong-yun feel empowered, validating his training efforts. The blue screen displayed Xiong-yun's innate trait and its effects. His necromancy trait granted him the ability to absorb and command the spirits of the deceased. The primary effect allowed for permanent stat increases based on the trait's grade and the condition of the dead spirit. The secondary effect enabled storage of dead spirits for later use, the capacity depending on the trait's grade. Xiong-yun was filled with joy to possess such incredible skills. His confidence grew, knowing that he would become a skilled hunter upon his return. A portal materialized before him, indicating he could proceed to the lobby. Stepping through, he found himself in a room where his injuries miraculously healed. Although the room only contained a bed, Xiong-yun appreciated the gesture. Questions flooded his mind about his next steps and the possibility of escape. As he lay on the bed, he received notifications about 5 command prompts: information, store, community, inventory, and trials. Activating these prompts required verbal commands. Xiong-yun grew more confused and reminded himself to focus on survival. In an attempt to regain clarity, he slapped his own face and uttered the command prompt trial. The system informed him that the next trial would commence within 24 hours. This assurance of rest periods after each trial brought him relief. Exploring the community chat, he found it filled with bewildered individuals. Some had experienced skill regression, while others lost their status window. Some were not even hunters, but ordinary citizens. The community chat announced the arrival of the admin, who disabled messaging capabilities. The admin shared news specifically for those who completed the tutorial trial. Xiong-yun speculated that the news would provide information on returning to their world. Instead, the admin revealed that the points earned from trials served as the currency in the store. Points could be exchanged and shared, becoming vital for even basic necessities. Xiong-yun realized that to survive in this place, he must engage in trials and earn points. The admin's departure left the community confused and frightened. Xiong-yun acknowledged that relying solely on a sword would not be sufficient for survival. Consequently, he purchased a shield and other essential items. He also recognized that although Hunter's stats had regressed, they possessed knowledge on expedited stat growth. The room replenished Xiong-yun's stamina whenever he grew tired from training. This feature allowed him to train continuously until the time for the second trial expired. He observed the community chat falling silent as the next trial approached. Taking a deep breath, Xiong-yun focused his mind on surviving through any means necessary. The timer for the next trial expired, prompting Xiong-yun to immediately choose to participate. He entered the portal and found himself in a dense forest. His objective was to assassinate the orc chieftain within the given time limit. Standing at the edge of a cliff, Xiong-yun strategized on how to eliminate the chieftain discreetly, evading detection. Xiong-yun surveyed the orc settlement within the dungeon, fully aware of the sentries that guarded it. Knowing the presence of sentries implied the existence of hunters among the orc ranks. Xiong-yun harbored doubts about his ability to face even a single hunter, let alone multiple. His judgment told him that battling numerous orcs necessitated a full party of E-rank hunters. Going alone would only lead to his demise. Therefore, Xiong-yun made the decision to retreat and strategize while he could. As he crawled back, an idea for an attack started to take shape in his mind. Gathering wood and setting it ablaze, he stowed all the firewood in his inventory, satisfied that his plan was beginning to materialize. Subsequently, Xiong-yun patiently awaited the orc hunters' customary hunting routine, aware that they ventured out in the morning and returned after sunset. This afforded him additional time to prepare. Xiong-yun recognized that the primary obstacle he faced in this trial was his solitary status, but he intended to employ fire as a countermeasure to level the playing field. With his knowledge of the orc sentry's behavior, Xiong-yun set his plan in motion. Exploiting the sentry's departure to replenish, he strategically scattered the firewood around the settlement, enveloping both the camp and the surrounding forest in flames, effectively preventing the orc hunters from returning. The sudden outbreak of fire caught the orcs off guard, prompting immediate attempts to extinguish it. Xiong-yun patiently awaited an opportunity when a lone orc worker presented itself and swiftly struck, piercing the back of its neck. A notification prompted him to decide whether to absorb the fallen spirit, which ultimately increased his skill level by 9%. Positioned behind him was an orc sentry, but Xiong-yun's heightened vigilance allowed him to block the sentry's attack. The absorption of the spirit bolstered his strength by 4 points and his agility by 2 points, equipping him to defeat the orc sentry. Utilizing his fast regeneration skill, he healed his injuries while absorbing the sentry's essence, raising his stamina by 4 points, his strength by 2 points, and his agility by 3 points. Xiong-yun now found himself with flames behind him, blocking the orc hunter's access. Surveying the scene, he deduced that only 3 workers and 1 sentry remained to guard the orc chieftain. Fueled by newfound confidence in his enhanced strength and speed, Xiong-yun charged toward the orc workers. With a single precise strike against each orc, he swiftly incapacitated them. However, an orc sentry emerged from behind one of the workers, launching a surprise attack. Xiong-yun managed to block the assault, albeit sustaining damage that resulted in a broken wrist. In that moment, he realized that no one was guarding the chieftain, as the sentry abandoned the chieftain to finish off Xiong-yun. Seizing the opportunity, Xiong-yun drove his sword directly into the sentry's chest, piercing its body. In the midst of the battle, Xiong-yun noticed the orc chieftain casting a spell. Exhausted from his clash with the orc sentry, Xiong-yun took deep breaths. Just as he attempted to evade, he realized it was too late, forcing him to summon all his strength to block the immense fireball unleashed by the orc chieftain, an attack capable of decimating the forest. To the orc chieftain's astonishment, Xiong-yun remained standing, having endured the brunt of the assault. The orc chieftain's powerful attack unwittingly triggered a new achievement for Xiong-yun, appropriately named Through Fire and Flames, awarding him an F rank for fire resistance. Gazing back at the orc chieftain with a determined expression, Xiong-yun prepared himself for a retaliatory strike. Can Xiong-yun successfully conquer the second level of the trials? Let us know if you want to watch the next part.